Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here with another of my 50-cent buys from that one time I thought it'd be cool to buy a whole bunch of 50-cent books and support a comic book shop. The title for this video is, why would you choose to start a story inside Godzilla's ass? You might be wondering, haha, I wonder if Marmaduke fan is doing a bit about being a millennial who doesn't know how to use the word literally correctly. And you know what? You would be right. This story does not literally start out inside literally Godzilla's ass, but it does start out inside the literal ass of what might as well be some kind of Godzilla creature. All right. So the idea of this Xander Cannon Kaiju Max. Xander Cannon is such a cool name. I thought that might be the secret identity, but that's the artist. And a kaiju is a Japanese term for a monster. They used it in Pacific Rim. They use it in a lot of monster movies that involve giant monsters and a few anime like that. So I've never been like a giant monster movie guy, so this comic isn't for me. What's weird about this is that title, the title I'm giving it, why on earth would you start a story inside Godzilla's ass? I was just going to roast this and talk about how much I hated this. I barely finished it. But once I finished it, I get to the letters column, and I realize something in what people are writing and how the artist is answering that actually helped redeem this cringy, painfully bad comic for me. Is that it kind of made me put two and two together that, oh, this isn't for me. This is for fans, not just of monster movies, but of specifically goofy 60s monster movies with cartoonishly cheesy, fights where it's obviously a dude in a suit and the monster designs are almost cartoony, and that's who this is for. This is for if those kind of cheeseball movies are your thing, then this comic is for you. And I guess it goes to show how just having a chipper, friendly writing style with your fans is important, because if you were like certain Marvel creators who will call me a Nazi if I ask when Silver Surfer is coming out, you probably lose the very, very specific sub genre of 60s kaiju movie fans real quick if you were salty and a jerk on online. Okay. So there are some, since I didn't dig this comic that much, I do have lots of thoughts about constructive criticism even before I got to the letters column, and I got a little bit of hope at the end. So, give me a quick recap of issue 1, but this doesn't do a good job of communicating to me within the comic what's going on. So I read this, and I know that there's an Electrogore who's gotten on the bad side of someone, but I have to infer that Electrogore is Electrogore because I don't recall ever seeing his name mentioned. So after they remove the narcotics are weird. So this is a combination of it's basically Godzilla and monsters get sent to Monster Island as their prison, but the conceit of this story is, what if the Monster Island I don't want to show this, good grief, why am I doing that? What if the Monster Island was like a prison drama, right? So you'd have, I don't know, like every stereotype from a 60s, not a 60s, just a TV series about prison, because, and it couldn't be in the 60s, is they've got all the dark humor involved. So, anal cavities being explored, prison rape, all that kind of stuff. And I guess my problem with this is it's so oddly specific, a combination. And it's so skeevy, right? The fun of giant monsters is that they're silly giant monsters and they have big fights. And is this a satire, or is this something which is trying to take itself seriously and tell me a character stories? Because then this guy, Electrogar, is apparently supposed to be very sympathetic. He's a father separated from his children. Apparently I haven't, at least within this issue, I didn't see him do anything particularly wrong, apart from apparently being a monster. He thinks in kind of coherent thoughts, but then when he speaks to his wardens, he speaks in a very crude language. So it's suggesting that he is having to learn the human language as a second language, and all of this is trying to help make him a sympathetic character, right? But the tone of the world doesn't work for that. A while ago, I reviewed, what was the name of that manga? It was like Goddess. It was that manga that was based on a visual novel, a Japanese visual novel, and it was making fun of goofy Japanese visual novels where the teenager ends up in a magical world. And I didn't have to read a bunch of Japanese visual novels to find that satire funny, because it quickly established itself as a satire in the very first pages and then consistently delivered gags. This, I guess, the checking the rear end for drugs is their way of signaling to me, hey, this is satire. Don't take it too seriously. But then we get this sort of human drama of a father separated from his son and worried about from his children and worried about his children's life and safety. What are you? What kind of story are you supposed to be telling me? Should I be laughing at this guy because it's all a satire and it's all goofy? Should I be invested in this guy? I don't know. Decide what you are. And then, I don't know. There's the warden, Gupta, is a bad guy. He's kind of modeled to be a bit of an Ultraman. So I was going to roast these monster designs as just being so childish and goofy. But again, that letters column helped communicate to me what this is supposed to be alluding to. The goofy 60s monsters style. So I want that roast that would have been roast is now rescinded. And then it has kind of, Xander has this sort of fun, chipper style, but he'll also do like this kind of like hard-edged stuff. So the storytelling problem, is this satire or is this melodrama, is reflected in the art. Is this storybook time or is this, true crime, Frank Miller, lots of violence? I guess the cartoony style fits with the idea of kind of a goofy, cartoony 60s monsters beating each other up world. It's simple, it's childlike. It doesn't really have the visual appeal or the beauty that I look for in cartoon styles, and I think that's what I think could be developed. What is beauty and what is appeal in cartoon styles? Appeal is one of the kind of big things that cartoonists have to think about, because if you get a cartoon wrong, it's really obvious because you're making very minimal use of lines. If you've got a circle head, 2 dots for eyes, and a line for a mouth, and you make that look ugly, then or something looks off or uncanny, then what that probably indicates is you're not perceiving something right about the structure. I think a lot of faux manga has this problem where it's imitating the style or the conventions of manga, but the person drawing doesn't have a clue what the face is, what a human face is like underneath the giant anime eyes. This seems to get around the problem by having their characters in costumes and masks all the time. And if it's a monster character, you can be a little bit inventive and cute, clever with it. So human emotion may not be quite as... Man, I'm just bloviating and talking out my butt with these weird narcotics that I saw in this first scene. Look at it, guys. Look at it. Can you... How do you start here and then get worse from there? I don't even know what to say. I have the opposite problem Zach does, right? Zach will roast a comic and he'll know exactly how to roast it, but then he gets a good comic, he doesn't know what to say. I have lots of good things to say about good comics, and I struggle with bad comics because I'm not just trying to be like falsely humble here. I don't believe I have the roast god sense of humor. I don't know how to look at this and just off the top of my head devastate the person. I want to encourage the person, even though I am really not digging this comic. So I don't know. So the reason I said that is I don't really know what to say constructively or positively about this because I'm so unhappy with what I read. I barely got through it. I barely finished it. So Gupta, the prison guard, he's apparently a corrupt dude who will wheel and deal drugs with the inmates. And the drugs don't make much sense except that they just seem to be things in monster movies. Chimneys, smokestacks, octopuses, and then virgins. So virgins is a thing from ye old medieval myth with St. George and the Dragon. This skeeved me out a bit too, because we have this idea of, satire, of kind of a cartoony universe where, things don't matter too much, don't take it too seriously. But just something about this skeeved me out. He gives this monster 2 virgins and says, hey, they'll get you high. And then the girls are pleading as they're being eaten alive. Oh, God, no, please, help. Munch, munch, gulp. I'm supposed to laugh at this? If this was South Park, all right, and just from the get-go and consistently throughout, I knew, do not take this seriously. This entire comic is a joke. Have a laugh. Then this doesn't become as creepy, because then I would perceive it as, okay, these aren't human beings. This is a joke. They're making fun of, ye old fairy tales. Ha ha. Maybe I don't even laugh at it, but it just wouldn't feel so skeevy, because I've now been kind of signaled that I'm supposed to at least take some of this semi-seriously. I'm apparently supposed to be invested in this father's, story of injustice and separation from his son. Well, what about these two? Are these not human beings? Because if your characters are human beings, then I perceive these characters as human beings. And now this is a guy who's apparently willing to allow 2 innocent young ladies to be eaten alive for money. Who are you telling a story for? Okay, so the oddly specific 1960s subgenre monsters, goofy monsters fighting goofy monsters genre, but also you gotta be okay with people being eaten alive. I don't know. Maybe I guess that is something about monster movies. There's lots of innocent people die and, get eaten by the monster, and don't take it too seriously, but this was just this was a worse moment for me than even being inside of, Brand X Godzilla's rear end. And, they got a cutesy little Japanese-style robot, and there's some uranium in the prison, and he goes up to space, and, they almost chop him up, but then they're just going to they're just going to cut off his pinky. I like seeing the expression underneath the mask. That was clever. It'd be really easy to just try to dodge all the extra work by just pretending, it's a mask, so he doesn't have any expression. But there is a good job of treating the character underneath this mask as someone who has expression and a personality, even though I now despise this character as someone who's not just slightly amoral. Sorry, monster who thinks he's a good person. A good person doesn't feed girls to monsters. Again, is this ha-ha a joke? He's Ultraman, ha-ha, ha-ha, ha. He gave him some virgins to eat, ha-ha, ha. Or am I supposed to care about who this guy is? And am I supposed to be rooting for him? I'm not rooting for him now that I've seen 2 young ladies getting eaten alive. And again, I was going to roast these monster designs for being just so childish and goofy, but now I know that's something purposeful about it. So he stops a fight from breaking out. And then they finally do the reveal that he lost his pinky, though we kind of knew that already. And then I got to the letters column, and I dug this, because this is almost, if you go to an art museum, sometimes an artist's statement is just a bunch of cringy thesaurus speak that actually hurts the art rather than helps you understand it, or it's just trying to make some sort of pseudo-poetic statement of meeting in the universe, and just the art would be better without the goofy artist statement. This is a letters column which functions as an artist statement, which helps me interpret what I've just read. And this whole letters column, I'm thankful I got to the end and read this, and read every letter, because this helped me say, okay, I get what this is trying to be. And he's doing such a good job of interacting with the fans, taking ideas from the fans, taking fan suggestions for monsters to put into the background. And these are fun. This is the fun stuff. This is the little kids getting excited and coming up with all kinds of stuff. There was a letter from a dad and a son
Let's see here. My 2-year-old son would like to see a robot dinosaur tractor kaiju. I have no idea what that would look like, and I'm not certain he does either, so good luck. And then the artist responds to that positively and doesn't just it goes beyond just saying, hey, that's a fun idea, but he seems to indicate that he will add that idea in the background, because the idea from a little kid, from a little 2-year-old, yeah, a 2-year-old, that 2-year-old idea fits with the tone of what this is going for. Goofy monsters. And he's responding to fans who like goofy monsters. So, just kind of general praise and generally good job. And then even just like a little movie review of a goofy King Kong movie from 1967. And he catches Ultraman as an extra in the background of that movie. He talks about monsters who are his top examples of his favorite type of monsters. His passion is infectious for this very specific subgenre of Japanese culture. So I'm amazed. Somehow the story about pulling an octopus out of Godzilla's okay, but you kind of saved it here. I don't know if I since I am not a fan of this genre and this isn't for me, I don't think if I see any more I'm going to spend money on any more of this stuff. But the passion shown by the artist for the subject matter and for the fans here is admirable. So good on you, good on you. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan, and I have no idea what I just read or even what I just said. Why don't you like, comment, subscribe, send over a few virgins for me to eat alone. What the heck? Why am I seeing so much stuff in comics these days that makes me just wonder, gee, is this some deviant art thing? Oh, yeah. I guess this is another video. That's it, guys. We're resetting the counter. Days without #1 Marmaduke fan wondering whether he should be institutionalized in a padded room. 0. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. Catch it, guys, later.